Hi everyone, I'm Kat and welcome to my channel, Naturally Beautiful Girl. So today I'm going to be bringing you a review of the brand new RMS Beauty Hidden Desire palette. And I know, you guys are probably like, another palette? Another launch? Yeah, I know. It is getting completely crazy in the non-toxic beauty space. And I keep saying this because I think this is an important thing to emphasize is I consider staying on top of launches in the non-toxic beauty space as part of my job. I'm still working towards my YouTube channel being self-sustaining, but I'm getting closer with every passing month with you guys, watching through ads on my YouTube channel with using my affiliate links. So I thank you all for that. And I really do take this seriously. Like, I really want to produce the best content that is the most helpful for you guys. So I spend a lot of time keeping up with new launches. I think a good example of this is I commute back and forth to work every day. I ride the subway, as many people in Boston do. And when I'm riding the subway, I'm always checking Instagram. I'm seeing what's launching. And there are a lot of brands that are launching products. There are new brands popping up every day. I can only imagine how it must feel for a consumer if you're not as immersed in this non-toxic beauty space as I am, because it's overwhelming for me. It has to be overwhelming for you too. As much as I have a love for non-toxic beauty and new products, and I'm excited to try out this palette because we all know I love eyeshadow, I also am a little sad just because there are so many launches. I really do feel like the non-toxic beauty space is becoming a bit like conventional beauty. Anyway, to get on to the main point, yes, there's another launch, and yes, I'm here to talk about it. And this one is from RMS Beauty. RMS Beauty has really been launching a lot recently. They came out with their new Uncover Up foundation, and then now they've come out with this palette. This palette is allegedly limited edition. I've heard that about some other things in the RMS Beauty line. From what I can tell, they launch things as limited edition, and then everyone buys them. They do really well, and then they're like, oh, well, we'll bring it back permanently. So it could be limited edition, it could come back permanently, I don't know. So this palette, what drew me to it was the fact that RMS Beauty, really other than this little mini eyeshadow trio, has not been doing palettes. Well, actually, I take that back, rewind. RMS Beauty did come out with their a palette of blush, highlight, and bronzer for their new blushes. But this is the first time I've seen them launch something like this. This really reminds me of conventional beauty, maybe something like Smashbox. This is a face and eyeshadow palette. It's got 6 eyeshadows, these 3 on this side, 3 on this side, and then these 2 products. The one up here is like a highlighter, and the one here is a blush. Honestly, the nice thing about this, and with a lot of non-toxic beauty products, is that you can use products like the blush and the highlighter on your eyes, on your face. They're really multi-purpose products. So I had to try this out for you guys. So here I am. The 6 eyeshadows are all the Swift eyeshadow formula. Honestly, the only experience I really had with those was in this little trio here, and I liked the performance of them. So I figured, it's worth checking this out. I hadn't bought any of the single Swift eyeshadows because they are really expensive, and I'd heard kind of that they were a little bit hit or miss, like some shades were better than others, so I really hadn't tried them out. I believe, if I remember properly, that these eyeshadow shades are all new and not part of the regular line. I believe that's what I heard. And also the pressed blush and the luminizing powder are also distinct from the other released highlighters and blushes. So they're all different as far as I am aware. The price of this palette was $42. The price is high, but I feel like it's actually a pretty good value for your money. You get this nice, rather sturdy packaging. It is plastic, but it looks nice. Although I've already managed to get some makeup spots on it. I was trying to clean it quickly before filming this video, but it's the hazard of having a white palette. You also have a giant mirror that I'm trying not to blind you with. It's a really high quality mirror. The reflection is really nice. It's really big. It's really easy to see out of. So I think this palette would be excellent for traveling. I definitely see myself traveling with this. And then you do get not just eyeshadows, but also face products as well. So I think it's actually a good price. The palette that I see competing the most with this directly is the, hold on, let me grab it, are the Fit Glow Beauty palettes. These palettes have similarly a mirror, a blush, and then eyeshadows. I can't remember the price of these. I'll put the price up above. But these I'm pretty sure are more expensive. So I think you get a better bang for your buck with this. This one is just a much larger palette, which I think makes it more challenging for things like travel. And if I have a multi-purpose face and eyeshadow palette, I really want to be able to travel with this. Let's talk performance. I've used all the eyeshadows while I was testing out this palette. I've used several of the shades on my eyes today, so I'll show you a demo of me applying those. And I also use the blush and the highlight. The blush is in the shade Passion Play, and then the highlight is in the shade Mystic Moment. Let's start with the blush. So the blush is this really pretty peachy color, and it is the same blush formula as the other pressed blushes. I have the pressed blush in the shade Lost Angel. I will swatch them side by side in a little bit, but as you can see, they are slightly different shades. The shade Pressed Angel is a bit more of a luminous powder. Like you can just see it in the pan that the shade Pressed Angel is reflecting the light more, so it does have a bit more of a glow than the one in this palette. They are distinct shades. Like this blush, I found that this blush in the Hidden Desire palette blends really well. The pigmentation is really good. It lasts on my cheeks throughout the day. Like it's just an easy powdered blush formula to work with. I think you get a lot of payoff, but it's not difficult to blend. You don't end up looking like a clown. It's just a good blush formula. They really got their pressed blush formula down. I was actually really excited about this highlight because if you guys have heard me lamenting on this channel, I have the pressed luminizer in the shade Grand Dame, but that shade is not a great shade for me. It's a bit too deep for my skin tone. It definitely has a gold undertone to that highlight shade, and this one does not. It's more of an icy white highlight, and it is a strong highlight. Like as you can see on my cheeks, it is a beaming highlight. So that's the only caveat I have with this one is like if you are into like mild or like gentle highlights, like this is not the highlight for you. It is definitely strong. You are going to see it, but I really like the shade of this highlight because it is more of a white-based highlight. It actually works on my skin tone because when I look straight on, you don't see a shadow where the highlight is, and that's a way to tell if a highlight is too deep for your skin tone. So this one works really well for me. So maybe I will finally be able to declutter my Grand Dame luminizing powder because now I have another luminizing powder from RMS Beauty that actually is a good shade for me. So if you're fair, the blush and the highlight both would work well. That being said though, if you have a deeper skin tone, this highlight might be a lot because it's intense on me and I have fair skin, and if you have a deeper skin tone, I don't know how well it would work. The blush I think would work pretty well because it is fairly pigmented and you can build up the blush and have it show up on your skin tone up to a certain point. If you have a very deep skin tone, this shade is clearly not going to work for you. But I think there's a little bit more wiggle room with the blush in terms of skin tone. The highlight, yeah, it's perfect for me. I've been wanting this shade like this from RMS Beauty, but it's not going to work for everyone. This shade of highlight does remind me of a more intense version of the Living Luminizer. The Living Luminizer is very much a white-based cool tone highlight, which I like. You guys know I use the Living Luminizer multiple times a week. Like, it is one of my most reach for highlights. This is kind of the powdered version of that. So overall, like the blush, like the highlighter. The eyeshadows. So I was first drawn to this eyeshadow palette because the shades actually are a little bit different, but they're not totally out of my comfort zone. So I should mention that all the shades in the eyeshadow palette are kind of, I would say, either satin and metallic. There aren't any pure mattes in this palette, which is a bit tricky. I really wish that there had been just like some sort of matte brown in this palette, because I think it would have made doing like a transition shade a little bit easier, because what I end up doing for nearly every look is using this kind of pinky shade as my transition shade, but that's really the best option that I have, because this shade here is quite metallic. This one, I think it's showing up on camera is a bit more brown. It's another cloudy day in New England, so my lighting's not the best. But this is definitely more of a peachy color, and it's just not the best shade to try and use as a transition. I've tried it. This shade is rather deep for me, and it also is a bit on the metallic side. This shade is pretty, but it's light, and then a blue. So I like the shades, but I really wish that somehow there would have been a matte brown, like even if this shade had been swapped out for a matte brown or one of these two. So I like the idea, but it really is missing that component for me. So as I said, I often end up using this shade as a transition shade, but it does force your look to look a bit pink. And I did that today, but I also use this shade on my eyelid, so that kind of helps it blend together. But it is a bit tricky. I've used this shade and blended it into my crease, and it's okay, but I feel like you have to use this shade on your lid and in your crease to kind of get the look cohesive if you try and use this as a transition shade. I am going to swatch everything in this palette in just a minute, but I do want to say that the eyeshadows are definitely hit or miss. Some of them are a lot more metallic than the other shades. I just find that some of them work a little better, they show up better. And I think that will come across in the swatches. In general, they're quite a soft formula, which I like. We know that. You are able to get a decent level of pigmentation. I just think in how metallic they are, it really depends from shade to shade, which is what I'd heard with the other Swift Shadow formula. I always use my Lima Pure Eye Primer as a base, so I do put that on first, and it does help the eyeshadows be more metallic. I should mention though that these eyeshadows actually wear pretty well on my eyelids. I do have hooded eyelids, as you can see, and they are also oily, but I find that these last pretty well. I mean, they do eventually fade and crease on me, as all the eyeshadows do, but they definitely have pretty good longevity in comparison to all the eyeshadows that I've tried. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do some swatches. Okay, hopefully my camera is pretty in focus. I always do the swatches in a kind of awkward place on my arm, so hopefully this helps. So this shade here is the blush. As you can see, it's quite pigmented. It's a little dusty, but not too bad. Here is the highlighter. I feel like it looks better when I apply it on my skin than it does swatching it. I think having a bit of creamy product underneath it makes it a little better. It was a little powdery swatching. The only con about the highlight, and when I'm swatching it, I can see this too, is that it is a little bit glittery. Not too bad. I've definitely seen chunkier, more glittery highlights. I'm thinking of the PYT Beauty highlight. We all know that that was really glittery. This one is better than that one, but it's definitely a little glittery. So then here are the eyeshadows. These are the three kind of brownish shades. This is definitely the most buttery, this one here, and most metallic of the eyeshadows. This one took some work to get the color built up. I had to go back and forth over the swatch quite a few times, so I would say this one is definitely one of the least pigmented shades. This one obviously is quite nice. This one, it's not showing up that well just because it's very close to my skin tone, but it does swatch nicely. The blue is not as intense as you would think from looking at the palette. I also use this shadow in my October favorites video, so if you'd like to see that shadow on me, you can check that video out. That one took a little effort to get built up both in the swatch and on my lids. And then this is the pink shade that I often use as a transition, so that works well. Okay, so for your reference, I have swatched the highlight and the blushes from the palette and the ones that I own. So this is the highlight from the palette versus Grand Dame, which is the highlight that I had owned previously. You can see the big difference in the shades, so in case you're curious. So this is the blush from the palette, and this is the blush in Lost Angel. So you can see that the one in the palette is a bit deeper than Lost Angel. Similar in tone, but definitely distinct in color. Whereas these two highlights, I mean, they're completely different. And you can clearly see why this highlight is just too deep for my skin tone, whereas this highlight is actually, you know, light and brightening. Overall, what do I think of the palette? I think it's really good, especially for the price. I think that it's perfect for traveling if you want to have a palette that you can just grab and you can do a full face with it. You can do your blush, you can do your highlight, you can do your eyeshadow. You don't have to be reaching around for multiple products, or, you know, just have one compact thing to travel with. Do I think you need it? I don't know. I mean, you have to judge that for yourself. If you're watching this video, you probably, like me, have at least some amount of products. You have blushes, you have highlights, you have eyeshadows. Do you really need more? I don't know. Is it good? Yes. Am I enjoying using it? Yes. Do I think that you would enjoy using it? Likely, yes. I think the main caveats with this palette are that the highlight is really white, a little glittery, which means that especially if you have a deeper skin tone, it's probably not going to be the most flattering. I like the way the highlight looks, but not everyone is. It is what it is. The eyeshadows are a little bit hit or miss. Some of the shades are just better than others. Some are more metallic, some are more pigmented, some are a little bit more chalky. Can I work with them? Yes. Do they blend well? Yes. Do I have a little bit of a harder time applying some of them than others? Yes. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag, but I think for the price point, it's pretty good. And I do like that it's a full palette. And for once, it's a full palette that's flattering for me and my skin tone. But that being said, it's not going to be flattering for everyone. So I'm happy that I purchased it. I will gladly keep using it. I'm really enjoying it. I have a lot of travel coming up and it is likely going to travel with me. Even though I do typically favor cream products for traveling, just because this is in one compact palette, I think it will be travel friendly, even though I will have to bring brushes to use it. So I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and let me know what are your thoughts. Are there too many products releasing in non-toxic beauty? Are you excited about this product? Are you like, oh no, there's another palette? Like, let me know all of that in the comment section down below. Also, check out my Instagram. I showed you swatches in this video, but I will be posting swatches on my Instagram as well. So be sure to check me out there. My handle's at Naturally Beautiful Girl. I post makeup, I post sustainable living, I post sustainable fashion on my Instagram. So if you're interested in any of that, be sure to follow me there to keep up with me, especially in all my traveling. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!